Then on Sports Central, we go for our next team prediction of this offseason, and it's going to be over the Wisconsin Badgers, a team that went 7-6 overall in the 2022 season. Bit of a down season for Wisconsin. This team is usually a big standout in the Big Ten, and this team was still decent in 2022, but definitely not quite as good as they usually are. But how will this team be in 2023, first year of the Luke Fickell era? How will this team be in 2023, and whether or not this team could be a contender once again in 2023 is what we'll be talking about here today. We'll be analyzing this team and predict their schedule game by game in this video. Let's get started with a quick recap of 2022. Once again, 7-6 was the record. A strong win against Illinois State to start off the season, but then the next week lost to Washington State. 17-14 was the final there. Disappointing loss for the Badgers. I mean, Washington State, a team that really wasn't too good last season, losing to them at home, only putting up 14 points. That was definitely a concerning loss there. Came back, beat New Mexico State 66-7, but then lost to Ohio State 52-21 on the road, went to Columbus and got blown out there. So, I mean, when this team was 2-3, then after the Illinois loss, losing to the Fighting Illini 34-10, I mean, this team definitely, you could tell this team was just in rough shape, and that was going to be a bit of a down season. And with that, Paul Chryst was fired as the Badgers decided to fire him mid-season. Then went on the road, beat Northwestern 42-7, so a solid win then after losing to Illinois, but Northwestern was a terrible team last season. And then went on the road to Michigan State, lost in double overtime, came back and beat Purdue 35-24, which Purdue, the eventual division champion, they were a solid team last season. So yeah, that was definitely one of the better wins of this season, if not the best. And then took on Maryland, beat them 23-10, lost to Iowa on the road 24-10, went to Nebraska, came from behind, beat them 15-14, and then lost to Minnesota 23-16 to finish out the regular season. So overall, 6-6 was the record at the end of the regular season. Obviously a disappointing season with a few confusing losses, but in the end they took on Oklahoma State in the Guaranteed Rate Bowl, got a solid win there against them, 24-17 to finish out the season with a 7-6 record. But looking forward to 2023 now, your roster preview heading into the season. So Graham Mertz has transferred out. He is off to Florida, and now it is up to Tanner Mordecai, SMU transfer quarterback. We'll see what he can do going from SMU to the Big Ten. Definitely an adjustment, but Tanner Mordecai shows potential. He was excellent at SMU the past couple of seasons, so there's some definite upside there. But you consider Graham Mertz the past few years, just such an inconsistent quarterback, really didn't have too much success, not a big playmaker either. I mean, it's not going to be too hard for Tanner Mordecai to be better than Graham Mertz was. So I do think this is an upgrade for the quarterback position. Honestly, it's for the better that the Badgers move in a new direction for their quarterback position. So I'm interested to see what Tanner Mordecai can do. Obviously, Big Ten is much different, though, than the American Athletic and SMU. But backfield looks great. Braylon Allen's coming back. Chez Mellusi is coming back. Braylon Allen is a true power on this team. 1,300 yards, 11 touchdowns last season. He has been incredible for this team the past couple of years. Still a young running back. I mean, Wisconsin has produced some incredible running backs over the years, and Braylon Allen is definitely the next one. Now, the receiving core looks great. Jameer Dykes coming back. Skylar Bell's coming back. Keontez Lewis is coming back. Receiving core looks great. Backfield looks great. If Tanner Mordecai can play even a slightly consistent season and play somewhat close to where he was last season in SMU, this offense has got tremendous potential. I mean, this is a very talented team that's going to have a lot more experience this upcoming season than it did in 2022, that's for sure. Lose 2 on the offensive line, 1 on the D-line, 1 linebacker, and 2 in the secondary. So a defense that already was pretty strong last season is returning quite a bit. It was just the offense that was the main issue for this team. That's kind of been the story in the Big Ten West, as well as the terrible offenses, but the generally strong defenses. And so first year under new head coach Luke Fickell, I think Luke Fickell is an incredible head coach. You consider what he did with Cincinnati. This is definitely the right direction for Wisconsin. I mean, Wisconsin is doing a lot of things right now. I like the way this team is heading. I know 2022 was a bit of a down season, but there is promise in the future for Wisconsin. And will this team return to contention in 2023? I think so. I mean, college football playoff contention, this team, I don't know if they're going to be a big national contender, but as far as it goes in the Big Ten, this is probably my favorite for the Big Ten West, just considering the talent and everything. And Luke Fickell's the head coach. I know it's the first year under new head coach, and that can be a cause for some concern, But Luke Fickell, as great of a head coach as he is, I think this team will be fine. But your transfer portal and recruiting now. Tanner Mordecai coming in from SMU. Graham Mertz off to Florida. Nick Evers is coming in from Oklahoma to add to depth in the quarterback room. Braden Locke is also coming in from Mississippi State, but obviously Tanner Mordecai is the man for the job, it appears. The backfield, Isaac Guerendo is off to Louisville, and Julius Davis is in the transfer portal. CJ Williams is coming in from USC, and you also bring in Bryson Green, so you're adding a couple of receivers. Will Pauling coming in from Cincinnati. Dean Ingram is off in the transfer portal right now. Jake Renfro is coming in from Cincinnati, so you've landed a few Cincinnati players. Darian Varner, defensive lineman, coming in from Temple. Jeff Pietrowski, edge rushers coming in from Michigan State. Samar Melvin, defensive back, is off to Michigan State. Jason Maitre is coming in from Boston College. And then Titus Tiller, safety, is off to Boise State. Recruiting-wise, 58th in the country, 12th in the Big Ten. That is the one, you could say, blemish on this for this team is the recruiting. I mean, this team is 12th in the Big Ten. 58th isn't very good. Got 3 4-stars coming in, 12 3-stars. Transfer portal, at least you had a few players there. But the recruiting definitely isn't great for this team. But once Luke Fickell has some success, I wouldn't be surprised if that definitely goes up. And I still have this team at a 9 out of 10 on the future forecast meter. I still think this team is headed in a great direction. I mean, I think, last season was a bit of a down season. I understand all that, but as far as experience is concerned, for the immediate future, 2023, maybe even 24, I think this team is looking pretty great to be a contender, at least in the Big Ten. But that said, let's take a look at the schedule now. So 2023, you got Buffalo to start the season at home, and then Washington State on the road, and obviously lost to the Cougars last season. Don't want to let that happen again. This game is going to be in Pullman there in week 2. Georgia Southern in week 3, Purdue on the road in week 4, then Rutgers comes to town, Iowa, a big game at home there on the 14th of October, then Illinois on the road, Ohio State at home to finish in October, and then Indiana on the road to start November, Northwestern at home, Nebraska at home, and then Minnesota on the road to finish out the regular season. So it's generally a very manageable schedule for Wisconsin. I mean, you got Washington State as your main non-conference game. I don't really expect them to be too good. And then for your crossover games into the East Division, you got Ohio State, you got Indiana, and then Rutgers. Indiana, Rutgers, probably your bottom 2 teams in the Big Ten East next season. Ohio State, obviously a national contender, but you got them at home. So it's a very manageable schedule for Wisconsin, which is great news. Your first 4 games. I think you beat Buffalo easily. Washington State on the road, that's going to be a close one there. I mean, the Cougars did beat Wisconsin last season, but I do think Wisconsin comes back in Pullman and does beat the Cougars. But a close and very interesting matchup there in week 2. Georgia Southern, you beat them easily, and then Purdue on the road. I think Purdue falls off quite a bit in 2023. No more Aiden O'Connell. I mean, if that bowl game against LSU was any sign of the future for Purdue, I mean, it is definitely concerning for them. But they've had a good run the past couple of years. I mean, they won the Big Ten West last season, but 2023, I don't see them being even close to winning the division. So you beat them. You're 4-0 to start the season. Rutgers and Iowa at home. 2 winnable games here for sure. I think you beat Rutgers easily, and then Iowa. It's going to be a close game. Iowa is a pretty similar team to Wisconsin. I mean, you consider the strong defenses, the poor offenses. Both teams, quarterback situations are improving, but last season were horrendous. Iowa, I do think you beat them. You got them at home. That's going to be a huge win there because I think Iowa and Wisconsin are going to be your 2 top teams in the Big Ten West next season. Illinois on the road, I think Illinois falls off a bit. Brett Bielema, I really like him as a Big Ten coach. I mean, that team surprised a lot in 2022. But offensively, they're going to be atrocious. Defensively, could be okay, but they're losing a few of their key players, several actually. But Illinois on the road, this is a dangerous team for Wisconsin in previous years. Wisconsin is the more talented team here. But going on the road, I think this is a trap game here, and you do lose to Illinois, despite them maybe not being as talented of a team as Wisconsin. I still see Illinois making a bowl game next season, maybe 6 to 7 wins next season, but I do think that's a dangerous game there, and you take a loss. And then Ohio State at home, this is a very winnable game here as well. I mean, it's at home, and Camp Randall is a brutal place to play. And so I think Ohio State, you hang in there. It's going to be a close game. but you do lose to Ohio State in the end. Buckeyes are just too talented and too complete of a team to beat them. So I do think you drop a couple of games here. You're 6-2 heading into November, and all 4 games in November very winnable. Indiana on the road, you beat them. Northwestern at home, easy win there. They're going to be terrible once again next season, I'd imagine. And then Nebraska and Minnesota, you beat Nebraska at home. I mean, Nebraska just hasn't had much luck beating Wisconsin over the years, and then Minnesota on the road. Minnesota is a tricky team for the Badgers. I mean, you got them on the road. Minnesota could be an okay team. Maybe 5 to 7 wins for them is what I'm expecting. I do think you beat Minnesota on the road. I just think this is just the better team, and you got some good momentum heading to that matchup. So 10-2 is the record for Wisconsin next season. I do have this team getting up to 10 wins, and I mean, Illinois is a very winnable game. This team could definitely get up to 11 wins if everything goes well. But looking at the range, your ceiling is 11-1. I do think you take a loss at some point this season. I consider making the ceiling 12-0, but I just don't know if this team is ready to go 12-0 quite yet. I do think there's a slip up somewhere. I do have 2 losses for the Badgers, but 11-1 is very much within reason. I think your most likely range is between, I'd say, 8-11 wins, probably 9-11, somewhere in there. Once again, I've got this team winning the Big Ten West. They are my favorite right now. 7-5 is the floor. That is the worst possible record you could have this season. I definitely do expect improvement. I mean, who knows? First-year head coach Luke Fickell. We've seen some first-year head coaches over the years do disappoint their first season, no matter who they are. But I do think Luke Fickell is stepping into a pretty good situation right now. I like Wisconsin to get 10 wins, and let me know your thoughts in the comments below on Wisconsin. And I appreciate you guys watching as always. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. Catch you on the next one.